Hey everyone, welcome to Philosophy Smash with Henry. Think about this one. How can we tell what an animal is thinking or feeling? On the one hand, you might say that we can never really know what an animal's thinking. Animals are so different from us that you might think we can't ever really get into their heads. Surely we don't really know what a snake feels or what an octopus might be thinking because their brains are just so different from ours. Although, on the other hand, sometimes we clearly do know what dogs are thinking and feeling. When a dog wags its tail, we know that it's happy. And if a cat hears fireworks and runs off to hide, then we can tell that it's scared. So, surely, sometimes we do have at least a pretty good idea what animals are thinking and feeling. But how can we really know this? Think about this for a second. Will we ever really know what an animal is thinking or feeling? You might be able to tell how a dog or a cat is feeling, but could you ever understand the thoughts of a snake or a bee or an insect or anything like that? With me to help answer this question is Ali Boyle. Ali's an assistant professor in philosophy at the London School of Economics, and she's an expert on animal minds. Welcome.
Thanks, Henry.
Okay, Ali, I'm going to give you 45 seconds to answer the question, how do we know what an animal is thinking? And I'm afraid to say that we are timing you. Okay, ready? Go.
Okay, well, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head already. I think the best way to know what an animal is thinking is the same way that we know what anyone is thinking. We look at how they're behaving. So, like, if I wanted to know if you were enjoying this conversation or not, I'd look at whether you were smiling and nodding or if you were falling asleep in your chair. And it's the same with animals. We just look at what they're doing. The thing that makes it tricky is that they don't always behave in the same ways that we do. So their behavior means different things. Like if we smile, we're happy, but if a chimpanzee smiles, it means that it's scared. So we have to kind of learn really carefully how animals' behavior corresponds to how they're feeling in different situations and use that to kind of crack the code of what their behavior means.
Okay, brilliant. That's 43 seconds.
Ace.
So you had, well done. You had absolutely loads of time left. So could you tell us a little bit about why this is philosophy? Surely all this thinking about animal minds, that's more something for biology or maybe zookeepers. What is it that philosophy can add to this?
Yeah, well, it definitely is something that biologists and other scientists work on. But that doesn't mean that philosophy can't help us here. So, to find out what animals are thinking in lots of different situations, you need to design really careful tests and think very hard about how to interpret those tests. Like, what exactly are we looking for? What sorts of behavior are going to be relevant, and how should we interpret behavior in these different situations? And these are kind of quite theoretical questions, and they're the sorts of things that both scientists and philosophers are quite good at. And in fact, one of the most famous scientific tests that's trying to look at how animals think was actually kind of proposed independently by several different philosophers and has since been used really widely in the animal cognition science literature.
That's great. Could you give us an example of how you might test what an animal's thinking or feeling?
Sure. Well, let's say that we want to know um, what my cat is thinking. My
Yeah.
cat and I like to play a game sometimes where I sort of poke my head around a doorway and she stops moving, and then I like hide behind the around the side of the door frame, and then she like stalks towards me. And if I poke my head out again, then she stops moving. So we might think she's trying to like sneak up on me, and that she's stopping when I stick my head out round the corner because she knows that I can see her. So she's trying to sort of trick me, if you like. But that's because this gets us into a kind of really difficult question like, does my cat actually have a sense of what's going on in my head? Like, does she know that I can see her? So if we wanted to test that, we might set up lots of different scenarios where she might behave differently depending on whether or not I can see her. Like I might put a plate of butter out on the worktop where she knows she's not allowed to go. And we might see if she's more likely to go and take the butter when I'm not looking. And if she is more likely to take the butter when I'm not looking, then that's some evidence that she is thinking about what I can see.
So it's the idea that if she knows she's not allowed to take the butter, so if she takes it when you're not there, but she doesn't take it when you are there, that's evidence that she understands that you can see her and that she knows she'll get told off.
Yeah, exactly right.
Great. So you've done quite a lot of research on animal memories, haven't you? Could you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. So I'm interested in a particular type of memory that scientists call episodic memory, which is just a fancy term for what you probably think of as memory, like your memory for past events that you've experienced. Like if you think back to having breakfast this morning, you can probably like picture your breakfast table, like what you were eating. You remember the order in which you ate or drank certain things. That's an example of episodic memory. And lots of scientists think that that kind of memory is unique to humans. So only humans have that ability to kind of think back to and remember events from their past, which would mean that animals are kind of stuck in the present moment. Like they're only able to think about what's going on now
Mm,
and not able to reflect on their past experiences. So a lot of my work is about trying to figure out whether that's actually true. And it turns out it's really hard to test for that kind of memory in animals. It's hard to find a really convincing test that shows that an animal is remembering an event from the past, rather than just using sort of general knowledge about the world to make decisions.
well, but surely it can't be that surely no one says that animals have no memories.
Mhm.
Like a cat remembers where its food bowl is. A lot of dogs will remember, where they go for walks and things like that. So what is it that people are actually sort of debating?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So scientists think that there are actually lots of different types of memory. And everybody agrees that animals have some kinds of memory. Animals remember, if you like, sort of facts about the world. Like if I hear a certain sort of noise, that indicates that someone's coming in with some food. Like a lot of animals are very like keyed into the noises that their food makes. But what people disagree about is whether animals remember specific events from the past. So one nice example of this is people often say to me, "Oh no, of course my pet remembers past events. Like they remember things like going to the vets."
Hmm.
Because when they get to the vets, or in the case of my cat, when she sees her cat carrier, she gets quite anxious. And how do we explain that she's getting quite anxious if she doesn't remember going to the vet? So it's natural to think that like animals are remembering these specific occasions, like these specific encounters with the vet. Um, but what might actually be happening is that the seeing the carrier or seeing the vet's office just kind of triggers this kind of feeling of anxiety. Like they
Hmm.
kind of have an association that's negative with the carrier or with the vet's office. It makes them feel anxious or scared. Maybe they even think about this like as a place that is bad, like a place where bad things happen, but they needn't actually be remembering the specific bad things that have happened there.
Yeah. That's great, Ali. Thanks so much. So if there was just one idea that you would like people to walk away with today, what do you think it would be?
The next time you're interacting with an animal and you think you know exactly what it's thinking, just take a moment to pause and think about whether there are any other explanations of their behavior or what else might be going on in their heads. Because when you really start to think about this and you kind of step away from your first immediate interpretation of what's going on with the animal, lots of much more interesting possibilities emerge.
That's great. Thank you very much, Ali, and thanks everybody, and keep thinking.
Thank you.